Hey besties, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be ranking every video game that I played in 2022. I don't know if anyone actually cares about Nintendo Switch content, but I'm going to be upfront, I do. And half the reason that I post these end of the year videos where I like put out my favorites, my worst, whatever, is for posterity's sake. I love looking back on these types of videos. So even though I am primarily a book channel, I am going to talk about video games because that is one of my hobbies when I'm not reading or doing YouTube. So I don't know, maybe some of you like gaming, maybe some of you want to see the 27 games that I played this year. 2022 was definitely the year of me getting back into video games. When I was a kid, I loved CD-ROM games. I loved playing things on my Game Boy Advance. I was very into playing different types of games, but then as I got older, I just sort of fell out of the habit. But when I met my boyfriend 2 years ago, he is a huge gamer and he kind of got me back into it through me like watching him play games, and then eventually he got me a Nintendo Switch last year for Christmas. So I've just been playing this puppy all year long and I just want to talk about all the games. So we're gonna do that. I've made a little bit of a ranking chart so we can kind of put them into different categories, and it's gonna be a good time because, you know, tier rankings are always kind of fun. I have the ranking on my handy dandy laptop, so I will be probably looking down as we're recording this, but let's just go over the categories. Number one, She Is in the Moment. Those are going to be the top tier games, the ones that were flawless, 5 stars, S tier. And then we have Slay. Pretty good, pretty good. Not the moment, but she's a slay. And then the middle of the road games, the ones that were just like fine, are gonna be simply called It's Fine. Then we have Absolutely Not. Games that I just like was not vibing with, not feeling, not it. But then the worst of the worst games are going to be in the category Disgusting. These are games that like had no redeeming qualities for me. They were just like a hard pass, like absolutely not, like we're not into it. Okay, first up, we actually have a game that I played pretty recently. I think it was on sale on the eStore, and I played it on my Switch, but I do believe you can get this on Steam and some other platforms. But this game is called Death and Taxes. I know it doesn't say it on this picture, but essentially the premise of this game is that you are a Grim Reaper and you get to decide who gets to die every day. The gameplay in this is pretty simplistic. All you do is literally just like stamp like alive or dead every single day, and there is a little bit of a story. Like every day after your shift you go and talk to your boss, and there is kind of like a backstory going on. So every decision you make every day about which people live or die like affects how the plot goes, basically. I don't know, it has some replayability because you can get different endings. I actually played it 2 times in a row. I just would have to say that I feel like the gameplay was a little bit too simplistic for me to put it in She's the Moment or Slay. Like, it was fine. Like, I did like it. I would recommend it if you like kind of a simple game like that. It's not very long. And like I said, I played it 2 times in a row, so it was obviously entertaining enough for me to try to get a different ending. But I think It's Fine is definitely like the category that it should be in because it was fine. The next game we have is After Party, which is a choice-based game. It is a side scroller. You like walk from side to side, but you play these 2 characters, Milo and Lola, and they have recently gone to hell because they died, and so they don't really want to be in hell. And so they discover that if you can get to Satan's like after party thing, you can do a drinking game with him, and then if you win the drinking game, you can get out of hell. And it was really funny. I really liked it. I really love this game. I'm gonna put this in She's the Moment. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really funny, and I really liked the art style. I just liked a lot about it, and it has kind of like a fratty kind of vibe to it because like in hell everybody's like partying and drinking, and a lot of the gameplay is you choosing cocktails to drink in different situations that give you like different powers. And I don't know, it was just like really fun. It was really cute. I liked it. Next up we have Road 96. This is a very random game that Monica gave me when I was visiting her because she got it sent in the mail like from Big PR, I think. Like someone just like unsolicited like sent it to her, and she wasn't interested in it, so she gave me the physical copy of it, and I ended up being very pleasantly surprised by this game. This is a story-based game where you play a runaway teenager in this like fictional country. I don't remember what the country's name is, but basically like they're going through an election and teenagers are being like kidnapped and stuff and like sent to work camps. And so you play these different like hitchhiking teens. Like you kind of play through different characters, but you play these different storylines of being like a hitchhiker, and as you make the choices, like as you go along on your journeys as a hitchhiker, you affect the way the politics are going. I don't know if I would say She's the Moment. I think it's a Slay. Like, it was a really good game. Next up we have Figment. I did not love this game. This is an isometric game. I don't fully remember the plot. I know you're playing like a character that's trying to fight all these little monsters, and like there's these different worlds, and it's kind of like a puzzle game. And I did not like this game. I am going to put it in Disgusting. I got really bored. I actually ended up abandoning this game. I wasn't like a huge fan of it, and I don't know. I just didn't like it. I did not vibe. I didn't like the gameplay. I don't necessarily love like isometric stuff in general, so I don't know. It's just like, it was disgusting. Like I could put it in Absolutely Not. Like it wasn't like the worst of the worst, but I think the fact that I literally couldn't play it to the end makes me feel like it's disgusting. Next up, we have Agent A, which is a point and click mystery. I actually use the touchscreen on my Switch a lot for this because you literally have to click on things. I think this game is available on Steam, so it would make a lot of sense if you were using a mouse with it. This is like you playing like a secret agent and you are hunting down like your arch nemesis and you have to solve these different puzzles. And I really liked it. I actually think you can maybe get this in an Apple Arcade as well. That would also make sense if you could like play it on your phone. I'm gonna put this in Slay because it was fun. I liked it. I liked the story. There was some voice acting in it. It was just like fun. Like some of the puzzles were kind of hard, honestly. I had to look up some walkthroughs for it. So it entertained me for the time that I played it. Next up, we have Yoko's Island Express, which is the most recent game that I finished. I put off getting this game for a long time. This is on a lot of lists. Like if you ever look up beginner games, or if you go on like Reddit and you look up like, oh, like I want to play a Switch game, but I don't want something too hard, something interesting, blah, blah. This game will come up so often. And I kept putting it off because it is essentially like a pinball game where you're like this little beetle and you're like going around and you have to like hit these different like pinball things. And I don't know, for some reason I kept being like, I don't really want to play a platformer. I want to play something with more of a story. But this actually does have a story. There's no voice acting in it, but there is a story that's happening as you are this little beetle going around on this island. And I ended up really loving it. I think it's really cute and I really enjoyed playing it. And I'm not normally a completionist when I play games, but I actually found myself really wanting to complete all the side quests in this. So I ended up really loving this, and it's definitely a moment. Like she is the moment. It's like super fun. I got it on sale probably for like $3, and I would highly recommend it. Honestly, I probably would have paid more for it if I'd known how much I was gonna like it, but I just kind of waited for the price to go down. If you're not using Deco Deals, you absolutely should. I don't know if you've heard of this site before, but basically Deco Deals is a website where you can make a wish list of every game that you're interested in playing on Switch, and then when things go on sale, they send you an email. And so I just get like these different reports in my email whenever things hit the lowest price ever. And so I really love that because that's how I got most of these games on sale. It's also how I found like a lot of these indie games that I've been interested in playing. So highly recommend Deco Deals. Next up, we have Tangled Tower. This is another point and click mystery. This is another one that I would recommend maybe looking to see if it's on Steam. I think you might even be able to get it in Apple Arcade because I had to use the touchscreen on my Nintendo Switch for this. It definitely worked, but it doesn't really work to use your little like joysticks on this. Or is that what they're called? The little, what are these things called? These puppies. Joysticks? I don't know. But this is a mystery game where you're playing these two detectives that show up at this manor that's like on an island, and recently someone has been murdered, and so they're there to solve the murder. And so you kind of have to go around questioning everyone in the family because there's like two different like sides of the family that live in this like manor of sorts. And so you kind of just go around asking questions. I really liked the art style in this, and there's a lot of voice acting, and it was just kind of cute. It was fun. So I'm gonna put this in Slay because it wasn't like the moment, but it definitely was cute. I didn't love the ending. Like some of the ending, like when you actually like figure out like who did the murder, it was kind of like, what the fuck, like the motives don't really make sense. So the ending did like kind of take it down a peg for me, but it was still fun and I liked it, and I liked all the puzzles. There's a lot of puzzle solving in this. The next game is Little Misfortune, which is another like choice-based game where you're like walking along, there's a story happening, and then you kind of like have to choose what Little Misfortune does and says. And basically at the start of the game, she hears this disembodied voice that's like talking to her, and he's basically like, let's go find this thing. And so you have to like go along with him, but throughout the game you start to learn that like maybe we shouldn't be trusting this random disembodied voice talking to us. And this is fully voice acted. It's really funny. I think this one's like a Slay. It's cute. I played it like, I want to say in like the summer, I don't know. It's kind of a fun game to play like around October. It's got some spooky vibes and it's a fun time. The next game we have is Pinstripe, which is a platformer where you play this guy whose child has been kidnapped by this man named Mr. Pinstripe. And so you have to travel through this like wintry hellscape looking for her. And I really love this game. This is the first game that I bought on my Switch that wasn't like a AAA game, like my first foray into like an indie game. And so I think I got this on sale for like 99 cents, like $1, something like that in the e-store. And it was so fun. I loved it. Like it just really got me like excited about having my Switch. So that definitely is the moment. Like I really enjoyed the story. It made me cry. I actually played it 2 times. Like it's fun, and I made my boyfriend play it. It's just a cute game. I really, well, cute maybe is not the right word. It's not cute, it's a little spooky, but I really liked it. I loved the voice acting and I loved the art. It felt very like Tim Burton-esque. Like it was just fun. Okay, the next game we have is What Remains of Edith Finch, and I'm gonna be upfront. I have very different views on this game than a lot of other people. A lot of people swear by this game, they love it. I definitely will say that the art style and the way that you play through the story is so interesting. So like you're playing this character walking along and you're like kind of like in her POV. And so as you play, like you kind of like look around as her. And so like as you walk, like words show up on the screen and like it gives you the story like bit by bit and every chapter of learning about these people in her family. Because okay, let me back up for the plot. Basically she goes back to this abandoned home that she grew up in and everyone in her family has died and there's kind of like this view like maybe like they're cursed or something. And so I don't want to tell you too much about the plot because a lot of this is about like going in and discovering the mystery. I just thought this game was way too short. Like it was only about 3 hours long and I really wanted way more from the story. So I'm gonna put this under it's fine. Like I am really going against the grain by saying it's just fine because the gameplay is really unique. Like a lot of people like swear by it because it is such an interesting experience and I think a lot of people like that. I think for me, because I love storytelling, like I'm literally a booktuber, like I like things that have stories that make sense to me. I wasn't really vibing with how there was like a lot of open-ended questions when I played this. I definitely would be open to replaying it. Like maybe I might like it more on a second playthrough, but there were just a lot of things that I was like, I kind of want to know more. Like I wish it was like a book or something so I could like know more. I don't know. And The Suicide of Rachel Foster. This game had a lot of potential. I'm gonna put it in disgusting right away for you guys. There's actually a video I'll link down below if you want to watch it. There is a YouTuber that actually did like a whole discussion video about why this game is so terrible. So this game's a little weird to talk about because it really glorifies grooming. So in this game we have our main character Rachel and she's returning home to where she grew up, which is essentially like a ski lodge, and her father has recently died and left her the estate, and she was estranged from him for many years because when she was a teenager he had an illicit affair with another teenager that went to her school that he was like tutoring. And so this whole game is like her walking around this like hotel like ski lodge thing and trying to like kind of uncover like family secrets and stuff. And it had a lot of like promising stuff to it, but then the narrative got really weird because as you find out more and more about her dad and his relationship with this young girl, it was very much giving like we think grooming is okay because they were in love. Like you really should watch the video that I linked down below if you're more interested in like finding out more about why this game sucks so bad. But like the game makers made some very interesting narrative choices and I don't know, this game just kind of like fell flat and I really would have wanted more from it. Just in general, like the plot definitely would have needed more, but then also just like the mystery like ended up like it was weird. I didn't like it. So disgusting. We do not support. The next game that I played is so good. Like it's probably my favorite game that I played all year. I loved it so much. The story is so good and the artwork is so good. Unfortunately, you cannot get it in the Nintendo eStore anymore. Square Enix used to be the one that like published it in the US and they apparently like did not renew the rights with the original game creators. So unfortunately I feel kind of bad like saying I loved it and like recommending it because it's kind of hard to get it. But I will say you can go on eBay and get a physical copy because I think they did do like a limited run of the physical copies. So you can go on eBay and get them for like $30. So I would still recommend it because I love this game so much. The game is called Forgotten Anne and I'm just gonna put it in She's the Moment because she was the moment. It's like such a good game. It's basically this game about this girl Anne who lives in this world of like forgotten things. So essentially like if you lose a sock or you misplace your vacuum or you like lose, I don't know, like dryer sheets, whatever you lose, like these objects will go into this like forgotten land, and when they get there they kind of become real. Like what is that word? Hey Google, what do you call it when an object is like a human?
On the website masterclass.com they say anthropomorphism, on the other hand, involves non-human things displaying literal human traits and being capable of human behavior.
So these objects have very human-like traits, and so they work and live like in this forgotten world. And our main character is a girl named Anne, and she's actually human, and she helps run this world. Her adopted father is like basically like, I don't know what you would call him, like the mayor of this world, the king of this world. I don't really know what his title is. I don't really remember his name either, but basically like he's the boss in charge. And so he gives her an assignment in the beginning because there's like these rebel like objects like trying to like take over, and so like she has to spend the whole game like trying to hunt them all down, and you like learn a lot about this society and whatever. I know it sounds weird, but the game is so much fun. It is a platformer and the artwork is phenomenal. You feel like you're playing an actual like anime or like Studio Ghibli movie. Like it is so fantastical and beautiful, and the plot made me cry. I will say, I'm gonna give you a warning, the ending isn't great. Like the game being so amazing, like literally being one of my favorite games I've ever played, for the ending they gave us is they actually should be sent to jail for that, but it's still worth playing. If you can get your hands on like a copy from eBay, I highly recommend it. But this game, like I'm literally going to move it to the start of She Is the Moment. Like she is the moment. It was so fun. I love this game and the story was so good. The next game we have is Gibbous, a Cthulhu Adventure. This is another point and click mystery. It has voice acting. This is another one where I would recommend using the touchscreen on your like Nintendo Switch, because you do have to like kind of like drag the mouse around a lot for it. I do think it was like first meant for like computer, but it's a mystery. It's got some Lovecraftian vibes to it. You play these different characters. You play a librarian and then also a detective, and you're going around kind of trying to solve what this cult is doing. Looking at this, I'm gonna put this up in Slay because I liked it more than Death and Taxes and Edith Finch. It wasn't like my favorite game. Like I didn't love the artwork. Some of the gameplay was like weird, but I think in general I liked the story and I was entertained the whole time I was playing. I will put Edith Finch ahead of Death and Taxes because I do think that Edith Finch should be recognized for, you know, how the gameplay is really good. The next game that we have is The Inner World. This is another like point and click sort of puzzle game. I'm very into those, if you might notice. I just love a game with voice acting and storytelling, and a lot of point and click, like side to side sort of games are the type to do that. So I'm gonna put this one at It's Fine. It was just fine. This takes place in a fictional world called Esposia, and our main character is this little guy named Robert. And so at the very start, he finds out that his adopted caretaker father figure is not who he thought he was. So he kind of has to set off on this journey to kind of restore peace in the land. I liked this game, but I think what really bothered me was that some of the puzzles were really difficult. Like I had to look up the solutions to some of them because I was like, how in the world would you come up with that? Like I would have never fucking thought of that. Like, I don't know. The next game I have is Jenny LeClue. Gonna immediately put that in She's the Moment because she is the moment. This is, you guessed it, another point and click adventure. Our main character Jenny is a detective. She's kind of like a Nancy Drew type, and she lives in this small town where normally nothing really goes on. And finally at the start of this game there is a murder, and so she now has a big mystery to solve. So the whole game is her trying to solve this mystery, and so you kind of go around the town getting different clues, and it's a ton of fun. I really liked it. There's voice acting, the humor is amazing, the art is amazing, it's super cute. I would really recommend it. It has a very nostalgic feel to it. It kind of feels like it could be a franchise that existed in your childhood, kind of like Nancy Drew. The next game we have is Neversong, which is actually made by the same game developer that made Pinstripe. And so Neversong has a lot of like similar vibes to Pinstripe, like in the art and like the voice acting, but unfortunately I feel like it suffered from not being as good of a story, and some of the gameplay actually was kind of hard for me. That's more of a me problem, but I didn't love some of the platforming, and so I actually ended up abandoning this game. Like I probably played 80% of it, and then I started playing other things, and then by the time I tried to come back to this, I just like wasn't in the mood for how hard some of the things were. So I'm gonna put this in It's Fine because I didn't even really feel the need to finish out the story. Oh, and the plot of Neversong is that you play this little boy whose best friend has gone missing. She's been kidnapped by this like creepy little creature guy, and so you're kind of like going along trying to find her, and you have to like question everybody, and you're like in this like upside down world, and it's like weird vibes. I don't know how to explain it. That's kind of the best I'm going to give you. The next game we have is Later Alligator. This is a game about this alligator who, it's his birthday, and he thinks that his family has hired a hitman to kill him. So he asks for your help, for you to go around and interview all of his family members to find out what they're planning, because he thinks that they're trying to take him out like and kill him. And so it's pretty cute. I liked the music, and there's a lot of puzzles in it. I'm gonna put this in It's Fine because it's a very short game. Like I feel like it was only like 2 or 3 hours, and I didn't love all the puzzles. I did like the characters and I liked the artwork, but I didn't love the puzzles, and that was like 99% of the gameplay. And so yeah, it was fine. It was cute. It was cute. I think other people would rate that game higher. I think it's been getting a lot of buzz. A lot of people have been saying they really like it. I think it's because it's kind of a unique idea, and the character art is really good, and the music is really fun. So I think that's why other people are rating it high, but I think for me, you should a little forgettable. The next game we have is Luigi's Mansion 3. This was the first game that I played when I got my Nintendo Switch. My boyfriend already owned a physical copy of this, and I loved it so much. When I was a kid, I used to play the original Luigi's Mansion on GameCube, and so it was just already like a very nostalgic game for me, and so I love this game. I'm gonna put it all the way up in She's the Moment. Basically, the premise is that Luigi and his friends are invited to this hotel, and when they get there, all of his friends are kidnapped, and so Luigi has to go around the hotel, you know, like taking down these ghosts and trying to find find his friends, and there's this whole backstory going on, and it's a lot of fun. Like if you ever played the original Luigi's Mansion, it's kind of like a continuation of that, so it was fun. The next game is Oxenfree, which is another like conversation decision based game. This is made by the same game makers who made After Party, and I'm gonna go up and say that right away that this is She Is the Moment. It is such a good game. Basically you play as this girl Alex as she goes to this island with her friends to do a little bit of like a bonfire beach party. They sneak onto this island at night when it's like not open anymore, and so while they're there they discover that if they turn their radio to like certain frequencies in these caves, there are these like spirits like living on the island, and so they kind of have to like unsolve the mystery of this, and it honestly is kind of scary. Like there were definitely moments where I actually found this game to be a little spooky, but overall it's a fun game, and I loved the storytelling, and I loved that there is a lot of replayability in it, because the way that you make choices and the way you go along in the story, you can actually change it like every time that you play the game. So I definitely personally will be playing it more times. I think I've played it like 1.5 times, so I definitely look forward to playing it more. The next game is My Big Sister. This game has a very like vintage look to it, kind of like 8-bit. I don't know if that's the word for it. It's kind of like the top-down style. I don't know what that's called. I'm not a gamer expert. I will look up the word and I'll put it on the screen. I'm gonna put this in absolutely not, because I didn't really love this game as much as other people do. Basically the premise is you are playing this little girl, and she is looking for her sister who died, I think. And so like you go throughout this story trying to find out like what happened to your sister's ghost or something. I don't know. I don't fully remember. I feel like I could even be spoiling things trying to tell you the premise of this. It's definitely like a horror type game. It only takes like 3 hours to play, but I just personally didn't think the story made a lot of sense. I was very confused the whole time I was playing it, and I didn't really enjoy it. The next game that we have is Spiritfarer. This is a really cute game that everyone talks about. It's really popular. I really enjoyed it. You basically play as this character Stella, who is a Spiritfarer, meaning that she helps spirits move on to like the next life. And so she has a ship, and you basically have these different like animal characters that come on your ship throughout the story, and they kind of represent like different things. And it's a little bit of a farming game where you have to like do crops and make recipes and like feed the people on your ship and like build up your ship. So I feel like if you like Animal Crossing, but you want more of a story and more to that, like you're actually like trying to do things besides just like maintain your island, I'm gonna put this in Slay, because I really liked this. Like I was obsessed with it when I was playing it, but I don't think I loved it as much as other people. I don't tend to love like farming and like, what's the word for this type of game? Like farming, crops, resource based, finding, I don't really know exactly what to call it. I also didn't cry. Everyone else who plays this game says that they like weep and sob and cry. I think maybe because there was no voice acting, it's just like you reading everything. I personally wasn't really connecting to the story, so I did not love it as much as other people loved it. The next game is Stories Untold. Essentially the premise is you're playing through these 4 different chapters that are like different kind of like short stories, but they all connect. I'm gonna put this in Slay because I really like this. I thought the gameplay was really interesting. You're solving these different puzzles, and there's like a lot of very unique ways that you're doing it. All the different chapters have very different vibes. I thought it was really unique. It had a very like Stranger Things feeling to it, and I really thought the music was similar to like that 80s kind of synth vibe, and it had a very spooky energy to it, and I really liked it. It was really fun. The next game is To the Moon, and I'm gonna be upfront, I'm going to immediately put this in disgusting. I do not understand the hype around this game. This has been recommended by so many people. So many people are like, oh my god, To the Moon, the story is so good, it made me cry. The whole time I was playing it, I was so confused why people liked it. Again, maybe it's because you need to read the words. I personally have found that I connect to stories more if there's voice acting, but even with reading the words, I found the gameplay to be so weird. I also spent a lot of money on this game. I spent like $10, which I know in the grand scheme of things is not a lot, but for an indie game, people just talked about this game so highly that I was like, you know what, I'll spend the coin. Like I spent way more on this game than I did on anything else. Like Spiritfarer is probably the other most expensive game that I purchased. I think that game was like $15. This sort of has like an Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind vibe. You basically play these doctors who specialize in like extracting memories when someone's on their deathbed. And it had a very cool premise, but the actual gameplay was so stupid. And the story made no sense. Like I was not vibing with it. Like I do not understand the appeal of this game. Like literally time and time again, people are like, To the Moon is a classic. It made me cry. It's so good. I do not understand. Okay, so these last 4 games are actually not Nintendo Switch games. They are PlayStation games. Me and my boyfriend have this thing that we do where he will play a game and I will watch him play it. And I consider myself having played it even though I am not the one with the controller. So the first one is Stray. This is a game that came out this year. And it is basically you playing a stray cat in this like post-apocalyptic world. I really love this. I'm gonna put this in Slay because there were some things in it that I wish were different. Like, so basically you're this cat interacting with all these different robots in this post-apocalyptic world. And so the cat's just kind of like running around and there's all these robots, but there's no voice acting in it. And I feel like that kind of like took it down a few pegs for me. But I really, really loved it. It's so cute. Like, you just get to play like this little orange cat. One thing that I think they should do for this game, if they ever make an update or like a special edition or like a sequel or something, is they should allow you to customize what your cat looks like. I would put her in She's the Moment, but I just feel like I have to reserve that category for games that are just like top tier for me. And Stray was really good, but I don't know if she's like top of the top. The next game is The Quarry, which is made by the same people who made Until Dawn. Until Dawn is also on this list. We'll talk about that game in a second. But basically in The Quarry, you play as this group of camp counselors who are stuck at their summer camp. Like, the car breaks down, so they just stay one more day. And so as they're staying, you discover that like something nefarious is going on. And so it's a horror game and it's choice-based. Like, you kind of bounce around playing different characters and you get to choose what they say and what they decide to do. I'm gonna put this in. It's fine because, spoiler alert, it is not as good as Until Dawn. Like, I didn't love the direction they went in and I thought it was kind of predictable, so we're just gonna put it in. It's fine. Like, it's just fine. The next game is Until Dawn, which is a cult favorite for horror games. Like, people love Until Dawn, which I totally get. I also really, really loved it. I am going to put Until Dawn up in She Is the Moment. You basically play this group of teenagers who are going to this ski lodge a year after an accident happens. I guess they're college age students, I would say, but as you're playing these young people at this ski lodge, there is something in the woods, a creepin'. I feel like you would really like this game if you like the movie Cabin in the Woods. It kind of gave me similar vibes to that, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that the lore and the story and everything that ended up happening was actually like pretty spooky, and I loved all the characters. Unfortunately, when me and my boyfriend played it, we did accidentally kill a lot of people. Like, when you're playing, you can make smart decisions so that none of the characters die, but unfortunately, we made some mistakes. I was not holding the controller, but together we made some bad choices. And the last and most recent game that me and my boyfriend have played is God of War Ragnarok. This is the sequel to the reboot. The most recent game was God of War. Apparently the original games were like 3 games on the PS2, all also titled God of War. Basically they just like rebooted this franchise. And so you play as this character Kratos, and in these 2 most recent games, he is living in Midgard with like Norse mythology. I guess in the original games, he is in Greece and he is a Spartan, and essentially some shit happens and he ends up killing all these Greek gods. And so now he has moved on to like Norse mythology. He's living in Midgard with his son, and his wife recently passed away. So in the first game, you're kind of going on a journey with his son Atreus, and now we are in the sequel after all of the different things that happened in the first game, and a bunch of choices that Kratos and Atreus made have brought on Ragnarok. So if you're like familiar with what Ragnarok is because of like Marvel or whatever, I guess you could like, I don't know if they're like that similar, but anyway, that is what God of War is about. So this is a game that I absolutely just watched my boyfriend play because the gameplay is intense. It is a fighting game. Like, you were like fighting little like demons and draugrs and orcs and all these like shit, and I could never play this game even on easy mode, and my boyfriend always plays it on hard mode. But it has a really good story. I really, really, really love the story. Like, I feel so much while I watch this game. I will say sometimes I take a little bit of a nap while Aaron does the fighting scenes, because some of the fighting scenes take him a long time to beat them. But in general, I love this game for the story, and I would recommend, like, if you don't like hard gameplay and you don't have someone to play it for you, to like look up some playthroughs on YouTube or something, because I think it would be quite entertaining if you got all the story bits. So I'm gonna put this in She Is the Moment because this was a really good game. I really actually hope they make a 3rd one in this franchise. I also recently heard that they are going to be adapting this into an Amazon Prime TV show. I think it was Amazon Prime, and I'm really excited because as someone who's recently got into gaming, I feel like I love all the stories the way that I love books, but it's like weirder to talk about video game plots than it is about books. Like, I feel like if you said, oh my god, I'm reading this book and here's the plot, like, more people are like willing to listen to that. But if you're like, oh my god, I'm playing a video game, let me tell you about the plot, people are like, what? But that brings us to the end of this tier ranking. This is the final list of all the 27 games that I played in their different rankings. although we will admit that 4 of the games were played by my boyfriend. I just watched them, but we're still counting them. Let me know down below what your favorite video games were in 2022, and if you have any Nintendo Switch games that you would recommend for me, I would be so excited. You can also recommend PlayStation games if you want, because my boyfriend does have a PS5, so I can also play things on PlayStation if I need to. I hope you enjoyed this video, even though it was a little bit of a departure from my normal content. I'm normally here talking about books, but I kind of feel like readers who enjoy stories also would enjoy video games, because video games are essentially a different form of storytelling, and they're a lot of fun. They just like engage you in a different way, and I really recommend getting into gaming if you've ever been curious. If you made it to the end of this video, feel free to use this video game controller emoji down below in your comments, so that I know you made it here and that you had a good time. And I thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.